this week's episode, Eimear, a music producer and film composer from Athlone, Ireland, meets Maia, a globetrotting British vocalist, to talk about their musical journeys.
Hi. So my name is Maia, like M-A-I-A. So I'm British. That's where I'm from. That's where I was born. My dad's Italian American. My mom's Black British, like she's Ghanaian. And then I grew up in Vietnam and like Asia, different parts of Asia.
And how did you get to Vancouver?
I came here because of university. So it was just like random. Like just felt right. So I just came here. What about you? Like what brought you out here and where are you coming from?
So my name is Eimear. I'm from Ireland originally, and I moved out here 4 years ago. Just because I wanted to get away from Dublin for a while, and I work in the film industry. So there's
in Vancouver or in Dublin?
In Vancouver.
Okay, cool.
So I'm from Athlone. It's this small town in the middle of Ireland. And then I went to college, university in Dublin.
Yeah.
And I lived there for a little bit after.
And what was that like? And what did you study?
I studied multimedia.
Okay.
Which was really vague. I didn't really know what I wanted to do.
Okay.
And then it wasn't until afterwards that I kind of realized that I wanted to get into music more. So growing up in Ireland, it's different from Athlone is a small town, so like there's not a huge amount going on.
And for the type of music that you do, was that something did you always do that version of music like back home, or do you think it like transformed once you moved out here for film?
Oh yeah, it definitely did. So when I growing up in Athlone, like I just went to piano lessons. And yeah, I kept like playing music all as a kid and in college, and piano is very like solitary instrument. It doesn't have to be, but for me it was. And I didn't really know, none of my friends were making music, so I didn't really realize what was possible. Until I moved to Vancouver, and like I know so many more people who are making music, and just getting involved in that kind of community has definitely influenced me. So you went from Britain to Ghana to Bangladesh, to Vietnam, and to Vancouver. How has that journey influenced your music?
I get asked this question quite a bit, because I feel like, so how I see it, especially as a singer, like as an artists claim spaces. Like people are like, I'm from the Six, like I'm from LA, or Houston, Texas made me. Like there's all these artists that have their identity tied to a region or a city or a space. I don't feel that way. So I feel very displaced in that way as an artist, because I'm super English, but I don't sound English, but I'm like culturally used to being around people who are very different from me. But that's my comfort zone, if that makes sense. So for me, it was actually going to all these different places and singing in all of those spaces, like whether traditional or just like performing in my communities. Like for me, it made me realize the mundane things are all the same. So like the passion is still the same, the dedication is still the same, the emotion behind the intention is the same, you know, the dedication to the craft was like transferable in every space. And so it actually was like interesting, because I didn't start songwriting until I lived in Vietnam, and that's where I actually got into recording and like writing like R&B and like just current music. But like I did opera in Ghana, and I sang like traditional Vietnamese events, like government events. Like that was what I would do. Like I would sing on like their VTV or whatever. Like I just did like random things like that, because my relationship and my priority was always engaging with music in a different form. So it was always like, it wasn't like always the coolest thing to do. I was just dedicated to the art. So when I actually got into when I realized I wanted to personify it more, that's what I really stood out to me. Like, I'm not really pulling, like, you know, traditional, like, Ghanaian sound or, like, South Asian sound or, like, Southeast Asian sound. Like, I'm not really drawn to it in that way. Like, I don't want to be categorical, because if you look at my identity and, like, understanding of me as an artist, I'm also very ambiguous. Like, I'm not really identifiable to a place or country or whatever. So for me, it was just picking up on, like, core, like, humanistic traits or experiences that just happen in many different versions. And it's the same for music. It just happens in many different forms, but, like, the intention behind it is, like, very clear that it's the same. So that's how I answer that, and that's how it's impacted my music. Because at the end of the day, like, I don't really have, like, a message. I just want to sing about things I don't think were said before, but I keep going through, and I think it's strong enough that somebody else is going to relate to it. So that's, like, literally the simple thought process.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like like, I think people want me to be like, I was wearing, like, an alzai, like, a Vietnamese traditional clothing, and they're like, I heard their, like, traditional instruments, and I put this in this song because Vietnam changed my life when I was 16. Like, that could be true, right? But I feel like it's not necessarily, it's just mundane. Like, what I could have done a performance in Hanoi and been, like, really depressed that day, and did a performance in Vancouver and been depressed that day, and that's what stands out to me. It's, like, the mood and the experience, not, like, necessarily, like, the tangible, like, differences. Yeah. So that's what I take from it. Yeah. So yeah.
But I guess then that's something that, like, connects all those places.
Yeah, but I think that's why you're able to, you can be so adaptable or transferable as an artist, because, like, if we were all so concerned about the person behind the music all the time, then your normal socialization is going to be, like, you're hesitant or you're shy. But if you focus on, like, hey, you create, I create, that's, like, the shared commonality every time. So then it just opens up the experience way more.
Yeah.
And that's how I was able, when they're like, oh, how you lived in these random places, it's like, oh, because, like, I just went there. I didn't really think much about it, and you had a good time. Like, you had a good experience. Yeah. So I guess that's why you can't really pinpoint.
Yeah.
Yeah. But what about you? Because you grew up in, like, a small town, right? And then moved to Dublin for school. So how do you feel like that Irish sound comes back into your music? How does it impact your music?
I didn't, like, fully become a composer, an artist, or make music until I came to Vancouver. And there's something about, maybe it's just Ireland, but, like, when you've all these people that you know around you, and you're like, oh, who am I to be, like, making music, you know?
Yeah.
And then when I came to Vancouver, it was like, okay, no one knows me.
Yeah.
I can be whoever I want.
Yeah.
And that, like, it just, like, broke down this wall. And then the traditional Irish music, I guess I kind of tapped into that more as a way to, like, stay connected to Ireland, because it's, like, so far away. All my family is there. Like, I don't have my family here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like I couldn't have if I stayed in Ireland, I don't think I would have been able to do that, because I was too afraid.
But the contrast, because, like, Ireland impacts your music, like, that Irish culture is, like, what makes you have a distinct sound in Vancouver. What was your calling, your aha moment? Like, did you have one?
I don't think I had one. I think it was really, like, after I finished university, and I didn't really know, I feel like your life is so structured up until that point. It's like, you go to school, you go to college, you have something to do all the time, and then I came out of college and I was like, shit, like, now what? So it was kind of a gradual thing, that it was like, oh, I was working in film, I was always a musician, and it just, like, eventually those two things kind of, because I thought, like, and this is, like, going back to coming from, like, a small town, I didn't study music in university because I thought, oh, you have to be, like, a concert pianist if you study music. And, like, I didn't realize there was all these other options out there, all these other jobs in the world. So it kind of took a while for me to actually realize that there was a place for me in music, and that I could have a career. So yeah, it was very gradual. And then I remember at one point, I was like messaging people on LinkedIn. I had no job. I was like, maybe I want to be a composer. So I like messaged someone on LinkedIn who was a composer in Dublin.
Yeah.
I was like, can I be your assistant? He was like, no, but but I'll have a call with you. And I didn't know anybody that made music. So I was like, how do I even approach this?
Yeah.
Like, what do I do? And he was
Yeah.
like, download Logic and like learn how to do that. And I had some lessons in like Logic. I literally knew nothing. I was just like, I feel like I need to make music and I don't know how. So yeah, I had some lessons in Logic before which is like, you can learn it on the internet, but I was like, I need someone needs to like sit me down and be like, this is how it works. And I did that, and the first thing that I actually like wrote and like recorded, it was MIDI in Logic, was before I moved to Canada.
Yeah.
There was a massive snowstorm in Ireland and my flight got delayed by days. And I was stuck, like everywhere shut down. They ran out of bread all over the country. Everyone was like panicking. It was like, you know how in the pandemic everyone was panic buying toilet roll? In this like snowstorm, everyone in Ireland was panic buying bread. So yeah, I was stuck. I was in my aunt's house. I was stuck there. I was like waiting. My flight kept getting rescheduled. I was like, oh my God, am I supposed to even move to Canada? Yeah, like should I not go? And I wrote, it's called Snow because it was a snowstorm. And I wrote it like at the piano and like put it in. Like I didn't have a MIDI keyboard. I didn't have any of the equipment or anything. I literally like penciled it in.
Wow.
And made that, and that was the first thing I made. And then that kind of, I guess that was where like the journey started. Then I was like, okay, I know how to, I know how to like express.
In that one song, you were like, okay, like I learned
I
enough
guess
to like put it together.
Yeah, it was like, oh, I can like play something that's in my head and like execute it, like get it out into the world. That was the first time that I'd done that. But yeah, there was no moment of me being like, oh, I have to be a composer. It was like, it was very gradual for me. Yeah. What about you?
I don't know. I've always wanted to be a singer or an artist or creative, like whatever. Yeah.
Sometimes I'm like, oh, what if I just didn't do this? And I'm like, well.
No, I tussle. Like I'm in like, like, no. Like it doesn't, it's just there.
Yeah.
Like I can't get rid of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Okay. So I think yours is
okay, so we'll do rock, paper, scissors, and whoever wins plays their music first.
Yeah.
Okay. Ready?
On 3.
Yeah.
Okay. Rock, paper, scissors, shoot.
I win.
Okay.
Okay,
I'm first. Okay, I'll play you a song so you can hear my vocal range, and then it kind of, I think this song connects for you because there's a lot of piano and then like alternative synth sounds.
Okay, cool.
So it's like, it's very like alt R&B.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'll play you that song so you can hear my voice, my tonality, and then also the songwriting is fire too.
The song is called Pray For Me, like P4M.
This one?
Yeah, and it's very dramatic. It's very fun to do live,
So this song I wrote like a year ago. No, it came out like a year ago, and I wrote it in like 2020. And a lot of my songs talk about like relationships, but not like the love type relationships, which is always like my frustration, because like everyone hears it and they're like, oh, this is a heartbreak song. I'm like, no, I'm just like, I'm a simp for my friends and like family and stuff. And so this song was written about, it's called Pray For Me because it's not religious or anything like that, but it's more so the sentiment that no matter what you believe in or who you're surrounded by, you're always wanting to have faith in that person, or like, so like a commitment to somebody, like dedication to somebody, or like checking in on somebody, like all of those little things talk about like your commitment to caring about them. So Pray For Me talks about like, the hook is like, pray for me so I can pray for you, tell your mind to do what you shouldn't do, stay with me so I'll remain for you. So it's just talking about like, you're gonna make mistakes and you're gonna have challenges, but like, I didn't know that relationships could have rocky periods. Like I just would get to a hard place and then be like, oh, well, they're not for me, or they're not a good friend, or they're fake. And it's like, that's not how it works. like you're supposed to like see things through with people and like be committed to them. And then also a lot of it has to do with like the relationship with the self, and then how that, like your perception of yourself impacts how you're talking to other people and treating people and like the people you love. So that's what that song is about. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's like, yeah. So
I'm excited.
you might have to turn. Yeah. Okay.
That was so good.
Thank you.
I don't know what I was expecting, but your voice is just amazing.
Oh, thank you.
It's so big. It's so powerful.
Yeah.
And
Very,
like the production is. I
Mhm.
love that. I love that.
Yeah, we had fun with it. Like we just went all out, and that's what I mean. I needed to like. I like to go places with that
Yeah.
in that kind of way. But the vocals are still very like traditional in terms of like very vibrato, very strong, very loud. Yeah. But yeah, I'm glad you liked it.
That's amazing. Every bit I was like, yes.
There's a lot of turns, so that's why I chose this one, because I'm like, so you can just like not feel like, I want you to feel like we can go where we want to take it, and it will still fit.
Yeah.
Because it's just about delivery, I think.
Mm.
Yeah. Wait, are you gonna play?
I'll play it. Yeah.
Like you're gonna play it live?
Yeah.
Oh wow. Oh. Okay, I'm excited. I get a show.
But so it's not gonna have all this like production.
But that's even
That you
better
had with
because it's like
yours.
live. It's raw.
So yeah, it's a slip jig,
Mhm.
which means it's 9/8 time signature, which is my favorite time signature.
Mhm.
Okay, so the thing about Irish music is it's all very like melodic.
Mhm.
So yeah, this I'll explain more after, but it's very like stripped back. It's not meant to be played on piano. Like I wrote it with traditional instruments in mind.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's about the melody.
melody jump.
Thank
Like the
you. I made so
contrast.
many mistakes. Yeah. So that's like traditional Irish music. So you've got like the A part, B part, and that's kind of what that is. It's very repetitive. So like with Irish music, it's more about like what you do with instrumentation.
Mhm.
So on
Yeah,
piano,
within
like
a
it doesn't.
shorter space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's called Garvey's. And I wrote that for my granddad. So he was a really good traditional Irish music player, but I never really got to experience that. I was 12 when he passed away, and it's something that I kind of like didn't realize until I wish I knew him as an adult.
Yeah.
So like I feel like the music is something that I never really got to share with him.
Yeah.
And yeah, one day I just wrote that. I kind of had in my head after he died, I remember being like 12, 13, being like, oh, I really want to write something. But I just didn't have the like tools at that time. And then like years later, I wrote that and I was like, oh, that was it.
Yeah, and you have the distance and separation between you, but you share so much.
Yeah.
Like at different parts of your life.
Yeah.
That's like a very sad but beautiful like element of life, I feel.
Yeah. So I was in a traditional Irish band over here, and when I wrote that, they played it, and it sounds great. It was so like when we played it live for the first time, it was so strange. It was really kind of overwhelming. Yeah. But it sounds so. I have a friend Orna, and she's a fabulous flute player, and she made it sound so nice. Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. I really liked it. I like the jump.
So the A part was this bit. That, and then it repeats, and then
That's where the jump happens.
the B part is and then it goes back on the A part.
That very much captures the message, like B part. I think it builds, like they build on top of each other very nicely.
And then in traditional Irish music, you'd have a set. So you would play like 3 tunes, one after the other. So you would put like different tunes that go together. And in Irish music, they're all really like old tunes, like hundreds of years old. And that's where you get to be creative, is like putting different tunes together beside each other, like which ones work, and like when you go from one tune into the next.
So are they like pre-existing and then you make it into something
Yeah.
new? Like you just add your twist to it every time?
Pretty much. That's like original, and then we put it with 2 other slipsticks.
Okay.
So.
And that's like your favorite like go-to traditional like writing structure to have?
Yeah, and I use that a lot then when I'm writing other stuff, is like I'll just kind of take that form of like AABB.
Yeah. This is like a lot of reminiscing for me, because I know all the language you're using, but like with like I feel like with modern music there's no structure with it. You don't rely on like
a form.
Yeah. As much, but you're applying it constantly. Like you're taking from like this like more historical approach to music constantly.
Yeah.
Because you still need like a like repetitive melody, and like that's what a hook is. Like, so it's just weird how
that's
it's
true.
Yeah. That's like the contrast I would make, like that I had to do when I was like studying like theory and stuff. How would you describe your music and like the part like genres or like industry that you're in?
So mostly I do film scores, and that's kind of like contemporary, electronic, orchestral, and then but I'm influenced by Irish music a lot, and I'll try and kind of work that in to my own stuff. So piano is my main instrument, and I started playing piano when I was 8 years old, and then I kind of started writing on piano maybe like 10, 15 years ago, and before I was able to actually record anything, and I would just like sit at the piano and like write that way. Mainly I can play the bass as well. It's not my main instrument, but it's handy to just kind of have. And yeah, I can play the bodhrán, which is also
So just a lot of core traditional instruments.
yeah. What about you?
Yeah, I'm a little different. Like, so my vocals are very soulful, like very traditional. What you would imagine an R&B like ballad singer to be like. I definitely fit that like powerhouse dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
But the way that I shift and why I label myself like this alternative R&B artist is because the instrumentation that I play with when I'm doing a verse chorus structure is not what's necessarily niche with like the drum pattern.
Mm.
So like I'll borrow drum inspo from like Alte Cruz, which is like alternative Afro beats, or pure Afro beats, which is like very similar to like reggaeton or like anything like hip hop with a good pace and like good drum rhythm. And then my vocals are still very like Adele-like, or like Weeknd-like, or like Beyonce, SZA, like anyone who is really a vocalist. And I can't really defer from that. Like I'm still a vocalist first in that way.
So when you're writing a song, do you start with vocals?
No, actually.
Oh.
No. So like I start with a mood, like conversation. Like that's how I capture stuff. And then I just kind of, I know what I want to hear because I'm still a listener at the end of the day, because I consume music as well. So I'm like paying attention to like how it hits and how a kick feels, and synths. I love synths. And then layering vocals. Sometimes I use vocal samples as like instrumentation.
Mm-hmm.
Then you build, and then I freestyle. So it's like there's a core intention behind all these layers. So by the time we get to freestyling and writing, it's like very organic, and then we just find with what is the most satisfying to hear or what gets the message across, and then I write around my freestyles, like my core messaging. Yeah. And then that's how I write the song.
Cool.
Yeah.
Join us for the next episode when Eimear and Maia create an original song about times passed by.
I wondered if I was ever good enough. I wonder why the praises were not enough. I wonder why I didn't have to be this tough,